नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित् सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने
So, how many of you are today PhD students? 1, 2. MPhil? 2. MA? All the remaining are BA, right? How many? Okay. Let me first explain the words, these words like knowledge systems. You studied your physics, chemistry, social studies. You did not have social studies, your younger classes. Social studies you had, and part of social studies was civics. Political science. You had political science. What did you call it? In your younger days, in school days, when they taught you parliament, democracy, these things, what did they call it? Political science. You had political science, right? Okay. And you had geography. You had history. All that together was called social studies, right? And you had sciences, physics, chemistry, right? So, if you want to give some common name to social sciences and physics and chemistry, what is the common name that you give? Both are commonly having the word sciences. So, sciences, right? Political science is also a science. Geography is also, उसके नाम में तो साइंस नहीं है, फिर भी साइंस ही है, ज्योग्राफी भी है, साइंस है ना? हिस्ट्री, they themselves, the Westerners themselves are not very clear whether it is a science or not. At least for the time being, for the sake of argument, let us call it science. It's a social science. They want to call it. Some people are doubtful. I was telling you why it is doubtful also. It is included into another group. Now inside the universities, when you go to universities, they classify subjects into sciences, basic sciences, and social sciences, and then humanities. Okay. And under basic sciences, they include physical sciences, and life sciences. Usually, in most of the universities, under basic sciences only, they include something called mathematics, though it is not justified. Mathematics is not a science. It is not a science like physical sciences or life sciences. Under physical sciences, you get physics and chemistry. Under life sciences, you get botany and zoology. Mathematics, what does it cover? Does it cover, I was telling you yesterday that physics covers dead things. It is the science of the dead. Do you agree? It is science of the dead, right? No living object follows Newton. They are not obedient to Newton. Newton's laws of motion are not followed by living entities. They don't stop, they can stop by themselves, they can move by themselves, they can change their direction by themselves. Okay. So, physics is the science of the dead, and you have chemistry. It is about interactions among the dead materials, that is materials. Okay. Jada, जड़ पदार्थ, यहाँ भी जड़ ही है, यहाँ भी जड़ ही होता है. चेतन पदार्थ इधर आते हैं. Botany and zoology, these two deal with chetan padarth, right? But mathematics, what does it deal with? What does mathematics deal with? Chetan padarth, jada padarth, physics type, chemistry type, or botany type, or zoology type? Nothing. It does not deal with any material, any object, any entity. It deals with methods. Mathematics is all about methods, thinking methods, reasoning methods, logical methods, calculation methods, quantifying methods, numerological methods, numerical methods. It's all methods, right? You understand? So, if you want to classify mathematics, where do you have to put? You have to say it is the tool which is used by these physical sciences, and the most is used by physics. Physics uses these methods to the best, and physics, most of the physics is actually mathematical. We talk of Einstein. Did you hear of Einstein? Did you hear of Einstein? And if you have to be a physicist, you have to have a laboratory, you have to have equipment, you have to conduct experiments. But this Einstein did not do anything. He is a physicist. What did he do? What is his Nobel Prize for? And his Nobel Prize is for something else, but we know him for his theory of relativity, right? You all heard theory of relativity? You are wonderful people. You know theory of relativity also, in spite of knowing Nyaya Shastra, Vyakarana Shastra, Vedanta, Mimamsa. You know theory of relativity also. Wonderful. And it has got general theory of relativity, special theory of relativity, and all this, right? That is what he is known for, and that is not experimental physics. It is purely mathematical physics. There is nothing other than mathematics in it. And through mathematics only, he went on speculating, thinking, through thinking, he went into mathematical imagination, and finally he ended up coming up with some formulae. That is theory of relativity, general theory of relativity and special theory of relativity. So that is the extreme of mathematical aspect of physics. And if you are a student of physics, you are given problems and problems every time. At the end of every chapter, you are given quantitative problems. You have to solve quantitative problems. And there is a branch of mathematics called vector algebra. Most of physics, accurate physics, is all vectors. And you deal with vector quantities and vector mathematics. All that becomes part of physics, right? But that vector analysis also does not deal with anything. It is just logic, that is reasoning. Among the Shastra that you learn here, to which can you compare this? Correct? tarka, nyaya, right? So mathematics is comparable to nyaya. Similar to nyaya, it provides only tools of thinking, methods of thinking. If you take nyaya to the real world, it becomes vaisheshika, right? Nyaya is here, there is vishesha. Vishesha is the vishesha of the world, the real world. So if you do vishesha, if you use nyaya to the vishesha, it becomes vaisheshika. That is why nyaya and vaisheshika are so closely related. So all that you see in Vaisheshika Darshana is application of Nyaya methods to the real world. And the beauty of Vaisheshika Darshana is that it does not have this classification of physics and botany, physics and zoology. It deals with physics kind of things and botany kind of things and zoology kind of things all at a time. Newton's laws of motion जैसे अगर सूत्र होते हैं वैशेषिक दर्शन में, तो एक ही सूत्र में डेड थिंग का, जड़ का, चेतन का चलन जो होता है, चलन के बारे में, चलन के पीछे क्या है, चलन कैसे कैसे हो सकते हैं, all that is already dealt. If you look at Prashasthapada Bhashya, he talks about root pressure also. You know root pressure? पानी मूल से पत्ते तक कैसे जाता है पेड़ में, फ्लावर तक कैसे जाता है, कैसे जाता है? Roots grasp that water and it goes. How is it happening? There is something called root pressure. उसके बारे में प्रशस्तपाद भाष्य में चर्चा होती है. बात करने के लिए चलन कैसे होते हैं, कैसे किस तरह के चलन होते हैं, बल का अर्थ क्या है. इसी चर्चा के अंदर गुरुत्व आ जाता है वैशेषिक दर्शन में. उलूखल पतति कथम गुरुत्वात्, it says, right? So and this gurutvat, that is gravitation. Where does gravitation come to us in physics? न्यूटन एप्पल को देखना है. आपको मालूम है ग्रेविटेशन कैसे आया? एक दिन न्यूटन पेड़ के नीचे बैठा था, एप्पल गिरा. एप्पल किस तरह गिरता है उसको मालूम हो गया कि ग्रेविटेशन है. आपको पता है फिजिक्स एप्पल पेड़ के नीचे आता है. तुम फिजिसिस्ट बनना चाहते हो तो एप्पल पेड़ के नीचे बैठना, तब फिजिक्स आ जाएगा. ये सब बकवास है. एप्पल पेड़ के नीचे बैठता है, वहां से ग्रेविटेशन आता है, ऐसा कभी नहीं होता है. न्यूटन को ग्रेविटेशन के बारे में पता हो गया था एस्ट्रोनॉमी से, खगोल शास्त्र से. पहले केपलर्स लॉस थे, टॉलमीज प्रिंसिपल्स थे, कैलकुलेशंस थे, डिस्टेंस बिटवीन अर्थ एंड द सन, डिस्टेंस बिटवीन अर्थ एंड द अदर प्लैनेट्स, रोटेशंस, all these were already calculated. He was going into those calculations. At some point of calculation he needed a constant. For that he said there is gravitation. Unless there is a gravitation I cannot explain these. And he arrived at gravitation. To tell you that there was apple was falling down, that is why he was doing. These are all stories. कहानी अच्छे लगते हैं, कहानी तो अच्छा लगता है मगर सच नहीं है. न्यूटन से जाकर पूछे तो एप्पल से पता हो गया ग्रेविटेशन के बारे में, तो न्यूटन बोला कौन बोला तुमको. तो एक लोग बोल रहे थे कि आप एप्पल को देखें, तो न्यूटन बोल भी सकते हैं कि मैं कभी एप्पल को ही नहीं देखा हूं, मैं कभी एप्पल के पेड़ के नीचे बैठता भी नहीं हूं, अगर बैठता तो खा लेता हूं, क्यों वहां जाके ग्रेविटेशन बोलता हूं, है ना. अब अगर एप्पल के पेड़ के नीचे बैठे तो क्या करना है, एप्पल खा लेना है, कम से कम उसका सुगंध तो लेना है. ग्रेविटेशन का क्या बात है ना. तो फिजिक्स इज दिस प्रिंसिपल ऑफ ग्रेविटेशन फॉर हिम इज 16th century. बट वेयर इज द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ ग्रेविटेशन इन वैशेषिक दर्शन? much many centuries ago gravitation was already there in Vaisheshika Darshana. How did they come to that idea of gravitation? By using this equivalent of mathematics called Nyaya they applied it to the real world of living things and non-living things. They arrived at Vaisheshika Darshana. Nyaya has been applied and they arrived at Vaisheshika Darshana. So now today if we want to classify subjects, we have to classify them differently, and we have to classify Nyaya together with mathematics, because both provide you tools to think, tools to analyze, tools to reason. है ना? तर्क, कार्य कारण, हेतुबद्धता, इनके बारे में सोचने के लिए, विचार करने के लिए उपकरण देते हैं न्याय और मैथमेटिक्स दोनों. सो ऐसा मैथमेटिक्स ऐसा एक सब्जेक्ट है. फिजिकल साइंसेस है, लाइफ साइंसेस है, छोड़ दीजिए ये तो है, और सोशल साइंसेस है. इनको साइंसेस बोल के आजकल बोल रहे हैं, पहले इनका नाम आर्ट्स होता था. आर्ट्स बोलते थे. If you go to the old universities in the West, we are calling universities, now you are in a university, right? You are all now studying in a university. This whole university system comes to us from Europe. They had their own universities and they used to give degrees. Those degrees were called degrees in arts in the beginning. Okay, and today also you have a degree called, your degree is being called as M.A. What is this A? Arts, Master of Arts. So you have BA, even that is Bachelor of Arts only. Those days in the European universities in the early times, this word arts was used even for basic sciences. BA chemistry, they used to call it BA chemistry. One of my gurus, my spiritual gurus, comes from that period and his degree is BA chemistry. Actually, his Upadesha was Rajarajeshwari mantra to me, Sri Vidya mantra. But when we used to have general discussions, he used to give chemistry equations and all that. He was nearly 100-year-old. I used to ask him, when did you study all this chemistry? He used to say, I am an old BA. I said, BA and chemistry? BA में chemistry तो नहीं होता है. तो बोलने लगे, पुराने जमाने में chemistry भी BA में था. Arts, they used to call it arts only. Art का translation आजकल क्या होता है? कला, है ना? कला. पुराने जमाने में साइंस को भी कला बोलते थे, आर्ट समझते थे. ये डिस्कशन कौन सा आर्ट है, कौन सा साइंस है, आज भी चल रहा है. हर एक सब्जेक्ट में हम जाते हैं, in the first part of the book, in any subject, first part of the book always deals with this question: is this an art or is this a science? आपका क्या राय है, कौन सा आर्ट बन सकता है, कौन सा साइंस बन सकता है? हाँ, किसमें लॉजिक है वो साइंस है, किसमें लॉजिक नहीं है इलॉजिकल वो आर्ट है. छोड़ दो छोड़ दो. आर्ट क्या है? आर्ट में भी लॉजिक होता है ना. अरे बहुत अच्छा बहुत अच्छा. आर्ट में भी लॉजिक है. फिर कैसे पता लगाना आर्ट क्या है, कौन किसको आर्ट बोल सकते हैं? ड्राइंग आर्ट और साइंस? डांस, म्यूजिक, आर्ट. भरत नाट्य के बारे में शास्त्र लिखा, नाट्य शास्त्र लिखा. अगर नाट्य कला ही है तो शास्त्र कैसे आता है उसके लिए? शास्त्र भी हो सकता है ना. You said there is logic in art also. That is what Bharata found, right? That is why he could create a shastra for an art. He could create a science for an art, right? Similarly, there is Sangeeta Shastra. What is Sangeeta Shastra? Shastra about an art, science about an art, right? Science about an art has been created. Shangadeva, for example, he writes Sangeeta Ratnakara, right? Sangita Ratnakara is a Shastra book about art. So there can be a science about art also. Correct? So let me arrive at a small principle which will be helpful to you throughout your life. All practice is art, all theory is science. आचरण कला है, विचारण साइंस है. आचरण के बारे में अगर विचारण करते हैं तो वो साइंस बन जाएगा. आचरण आर्ट है ना. किसी भी आचरण आर्ट हो सकता है. अगर हम केमिस्ट्री भी करना चाहते हैं तो लैब में जाकर क्या करना है, लैबोरेटरी में जाकर क्या करना है, वो आर्ट है. उसमें भी आर्ट है. अगर बॉटनी में है डिसेक्शन करना है लीफ को, जूलॉजी में है फ्रॉग को डिसेक्शन करना है, वो आर्ट है. नहीं तो फ्रॉग मर जाएगा. फ्रॉग को जिंदा रखकर ही देखना है अंदर, नहीं तो वो पैल्पिटेशंस नहीं दिखेंगे. उसके लिए आर्ट चाहिए, है ना. वहां भी आर्ट है. सब जगह आर्ट है. प्रैक्टिस इज आर्ट. जो कुछ भी हम हाथ से करते हैं, अपने तरफ से करते हैं, करना आचरण आर्ट है. उसके बारे में विचारण करना साइंस है. साइंस एंड आर्ट हर जगह है ना. तो ये लोग क्या बोल दिए पहले, इन सब्जेक्ट्स को, हिस्ट्री, पॉलिटिकल साइंस, सोशियोलॉजी, ज्योग्राफी, इन सब्जेक्ट्स को आर्ट्स बोल दिए. तो ये लोग बोलने लगे नहीं नहीं, हमारे सब्जेक्ट में भी विचारण है, तार्किकता है, शास्त्र है. हमारे सब्जेक्ट्स को अब साइंसेस ही बोलना है. एक क्लेम, फाइटिंग, कंपटीशन होने लगा. और दे स्टार्टेड सेइंग वी आवर्स आर सोशल साइंसेस. टू गेट दैट स्टेटस ऑफ सोशल साइंसेस they started competing with these subjects. So for them the whole goal was to become mathematical. More mathematical you are, more scientific you look like, right? So in that competition what they did is, okay, physics is highly mathematical, that is why it is the king of all the basic sciences. So among social sciences, economics for example is considered to be the king because it is highly mathematical. There is a lot of mathematics in economics. पैसों से काम है. पैसे बोले तो क्या करना है, कैलकुलेशन ही कैलकुलेशन है. आप लोग पढ़ो, एक नॉवेल है द लिटिल प्रिंस, इंग्लिश नॉवेल. वो फ्रेंच नॉवेल है, इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेशन हुआ है द लिटिल प्रिंस. इन दैट नॉवेल, it is a very good imaginative novel. One pilot, one Air Force pilot is a very interesting fellow. He is highly imaginative also in spite of being a pilot. He is highly romantic, imaginative. He can play like a child and he can play with children also. Once actually what happens is his flight crashes, his plane crashes in a lonely place and he is getting his flight repaired. All of a sudden he hears the sound of a small child. The small child says, uncle, and he looks at him and he gets disturbed. No, I am seriously working on my flight. But finally he heeds to the child, he agrees to listen to the child and he says, what do you want? He says, I lost my sheep. What happened to your sheep? He says, one snake swallowed it. How do you know? He shows a small paper. In that paper there is a figure like this. This fellow pilot gets surprised. Where is the snake? Where is the sheep? He says, this is the snake and this is the sheep. Then this pilot gets an idea. Okay, I'll get your sheep out. And he draws the sheep here in his own way, his own drawing of sheep here, and says, here is the snake. So now the sheep is out. The child says, thank you. He's very happy. And he goes out, and after some time he comes back and says, grass to my sheep. Then this man draws grass here. And he says, thank you. Rope to tie the sheep. Again he draws. He's happy. And he goes on giving him whatever he wants for the sheep. And the child is happy. And the child says, you are the only knowledgeable man in the world. Because I went on asking people to get my sheep out, no one understands. They keep laughing at his figure. And then he says, I live in a world, a small planet, where I alone live, my sheep, and a small plant, rose plant. Only 3 of us live there. And our planet is sufficient for 3 of us. I came from that planet. Because my sheep is lost. I lost my sheep. That is why I came here. But in this world, people are so weird. And he goes on explaining. I went to the railway station. People are traveling here and there, here and there. I was asking them, where are you going? They said, we are going. Where are you going? We are going. Why are you going? We are going. Going. That's all. Where, why, they do not know. They keep going. Only going and coming here and there, to this direction and that direction. Then I got bored and I went to some other place. Somebody was counting money. And I asked that fellow, what are you doing? I am counting money. He said, why are you counting money? I will get more money. What do you do with that? I will count again. Then what happens? I'll get more money. Then what will you do? I will count again. Why do you do all this? To count. मनी का यही चक्कर है. मनी अगर है तुम्हारे पास तो क्या करना है? Count, 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 count. Finally, what remains with you is just counting. अगर अंबानी के पास पैसे है तो क्या करेगा? काउंट करते हैं बैठेगा. उसके अलावा कुछ काम भी नहीं है उसके पास. Counting. And this Little Prince novel is communicating something, no, indirectly. It is telling about the world, the way we are living, the way we are wasting our time. The so-called Little Prince. कुछ चल रहा है इसमें, रहस्य भाषा में, है ना? And you have to read that novel. You will get interest. So this economics is all about counting. That is why it is mathematical. And because it is mathematical, people started calling it closer to physics. So it got the highest status there. And then there are other subjects. Sociology, for example, also has a great status because it also uses statistics. I was telling you, statistics, questionnaires, surveys, so mathematical conclusions, so many figures, percentages and all that it does. And you have its sister subject, anthropology, my subject. It's looked down upon because it does not know mathematics. It does not use mathematics. It is ethnography, interviews, group interviews. The such qualitative research methods are used in it, not more quantitative methods are used in anthropology. Political science, इसमें भी मैथ्स कम आता है. तो ये नीच सब्जेक्ट है. ये नीच इसलिए है कि मैथ्स नहीं है इसमें. हिस्ट्री ये भी सबसे नीच है इसलिए कि मैथ्स नहीं है. मैथ्स रहना है ना. अगर कोई भी अच्छा सब्जेक्ट बनना है तो क्या रहना है उसमें? मैथ्स, मैथमेटिक्स रहना है. इसमें मैथमेटिक्स, हाँ, फिलॉसफी इधर है ही नहीं है. सोशल साइंसेस में फिलॉसफी को रखते भी नहीं है. फिलॉसफी को इधर रखते हैं, ह्यूमैनिटीज में रखते हैं. ह्यूमैनिटीज का मतलब है साइंस नहीं है. बाहर भेज दो. सोशल बॉयकॉट कर दिए. यूनिवर्सिटी में तुम जाओ, किसी यूनिवर्सिटी में, रेगुलर यूनिवर्सिटीज में जाके देखो, ह्यूमैनिटीज का स्कूल रहता है, स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज बोल के. वो एक दलित स्ट्रीट है, कोई नहीं जाता है उधर. School of Sciences, Life Sciences है, School of Physics, School of Chemistry, अरे ब्राह्मण अग्रहार सबसे अच्छा. नेक्स्ट सोशल साइंसेस थोड़ा कम. अगर गवर्नमेंट से फंड्स आना है, सोसाइटी से फंड्स आना है, इंडस्ट्री से फंड्स आना है, तो मैक्सिमम फंड्स इधर जाएंगे, उनके बहुत से प्रोजेक्ट्स मिलेंगे. इनको कम मिलेंगे, इनको मिलेंगे ही नहीं, कोई भी नहीं देता है. ये लोग बोलते हैं क्या करते हो? फिलॉसफी. फिलॉसफी क्या है? फिलॉसफी का मतलब क्या है? मैं सोचता हूं. सोचते बैठो, उसके लिए पैसे क्यों? पैसे की क्या जरूरत है? सोचते बैठो ना. कोई भी पैसे नहीं देता है इसको. I was telling you on the very first day that if there are 40 seats, you get 6 applications for philosophy. One of the students, I don't know who among you, was telling me the most beautiful thing while we were walking in the corridor, that philosophy is the subject of the most intelligent people. Only intelligent can study philosophy. Right? All of you are studying philosophy here. All that you are studying is mostly it lies in philosophy only because you are highly intelligent. Only people with guts can come to philosophy. You must have guts. You must be adventurous to come into philosophy. You are adventurous, that is why you came to philosophy. But these people, yeah, but they bring this mathematical logic into philosophy and call it part of philosophy, but it is speculation. It is basically, what is the difference between philosophy and the other disciplines is, philosophy is called a speculative discipline. Would you like to make note of that word? Speculative. Their method is called speculative. Speculative, okay? And speculation means thinking, sochna. It is contrasted with empirical. Empirical means observing the world, collecting data. On the basis of data collection, if you are analyzing something, that is called empirical study. Observing the world. It is based on observing the world, observing the reality. All these are observing the world, except mathematics, they are all observing the world. So they are empirical subjects. Physics is an empirical subject, chemistry is an empirical subject, botany is an empirical, zoology, economics, sociology. These are all empirical subjects. They are studying actual reality out there. Philosophy, yoga, science and arts. So that is what I'm taking you there. Yoga, what is yoga? Is it empirical or is it speculative? Not only yoga, Vaisheshika, is it speculative or empirical? It is doing speculative about empirical. There is speculation about the empirical reality. So there is a combination, it is more complex. It cannot be said that it is purely speculative. And there is so much, as Nagaraj is saying, we have many subjects where there is a combination of these speculation and empirical study. We have such shastras. They don't fit into these classifications that these people have done into the university system, modern university system. For example, they place literature studies, literary studies into humanities. If you go to any university, English literature department, Bengali literature department, Sanskrit literature department, all these fall under humanities. They say that there is no science in this. But if you study Sahitya here in Shastras, your Sahitya study has Alankara, what? Shastra. Alankara, Shastra. There is a Shastra there. They do not know this, that there is a Shastra about Sahitya. But there is a Shastra here for us in India, in Sanskrit sciences, we have a Shastra about Sahitya. Just as we have a Sahitya about Natya. And also, all of you know that Alankara Shastra is closely connected with Natya Shastra. Most of the basics of Alankara Shastra started with Natya Shastra. Bharata gave them. Actually, that got bifurcated into many. Bharata's Natya Shastra has foundations of Sangita Shastra, it has got foundations of Alankara Shastra, it has got even foundations for that matter of even Vyakarana. There is a lot of Vyakarana in Bharata's Natya Shastra. So, it's a huge book and it has so many things, it gave foundations to many subjects. So, can we have a science of dance? You go and ask the Europeans, do they have a science of dance? No. Do they have a science of music? They do not have. Do they have science of Sahitya, literature? No. Whereas here we had sciences for every one of these, and they do not know. That is why they threw literature studies into a basket, a dustbin called humanities. Humanities is a dustbin, garbage, कूड़ा लिटरेचर को लेकर उसमें डाल दिए. हम फक्र से बोल सकते हैं, गर्व से बोल सकते हैं कि हम लिटरेचर को कूड़े में नहीं डाले हैं, डस्टबिन में नहीं डाले हैं. हमको लिटरेचर स्टडी भी यहीं आता है, साइंसेस में आता है. This in Indian universities, some professors wanted to say this, but how to say inside the university system? Literature sciences, nobody accepts. That is why in IIIT Hyderabad, when Professor Navjot Singh started a department called Exact Humanities. He called that Exact Humanities. So humanities is everywhere, all over the world, but our humanities, Indic humanities, are exact humanities. So what he means is Alankara Shastra only. By exact humanities, he means our Dharma Shastra, our Alankara Shastra, whatever Shastras we have of arts. We have Rasa is a beautiful Shastra. We have highly developed, and yesterday they were all talking about Rasa, getting Rasa also. Right? And actually they collected the Rasa in bottles while going. Right? Yeah, so that Rasa Shastra, we have Rasa Shastra. Even about Rasa there is Shastra. No one would believe. You go to America, tell them he keeps drinking juices, tell him about this juice also I have a Shastra, he will go bonkers. इसके बारे में भी शास्त्र है. अरे हॉलीवुड मूवी में बैठते हो, टीयर्स बहाते हो, उसके बारे में भी शास्त्र है. कमाल की बात है, आप लोगों के पास सबके लिए शास्त्र है. This exactly they said while I was in Chicago. There was an anthropology seminar at this time, late night time only. Some discussion was going on about spirit possession, during jatras or during Devi festivals, some people get possessed. Devi comes onto their body and they swing and all that. That was being discussed by an anthropologist. What do they call it? Bhar. Yeah. So they get possessed. Bhar happens. One anthropologist was discussing this in a comparative study. What happens in West Indies and what happens in Tamil Nadu? A comparative study. He was presenting a paper, Tamil and Caribbean comparative study about Bhar only. In West Indies also Bhar happens in Christian churches, and in Tamil Nadu also it happens. He was comparing, and there they got some problems in analysis. Then I was sitting in the audience, so I immediately said, Bharata already talked about it, Natya Shastra talks about it, Dhananjaya said this about this and all that. That anthropologist is a very famous anthropologist, now today very well known among anthropology schools. He was sitting there and he started saying, you have science for everything? You Indians did not leave anything. About Bhar शास्त्र है, रस शास्त्र है, खाना शास्त्र है, सबके बारे में बैठते हो शास्त्र है, उठते हो शास्त्र है, हाँ कुकिंग शास्त्र है, पाक शास्त्र है. कुछ भी नहीं छोड़ते हो, छोड़ते नहीं हैं। हम ऐसे है, भारत का गर्व है कि हम छोड़ते नहीं हैं, किसी को भी छोड़ते नहीं, सबके बारे में शास्त्र बनाते हैं। हम शास्त्र के लोग हैं, हम शास्त्रीय है, सबके बारे में शास्त्र बना देते हैं। हाँ, गर्व से मैं बोला, जब वो एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट पूछा तो मैं बोला हाँ, छोड़े नहीं है, किसी को भी नहीं छोड़ते हैं। लैंग्वेज है, लैंग्वेज में फोनोलॉजी है, कौन दिए हैं फोनोलॉजी इस दुनिया को? कंठ्य, तालव्य, ये सब लिंग्विस्टिक्स है ना, मॉडर्न लिंग्विस्टिक्स, उसमें एग्जैक्टली सेम ग्लॉटल्स, पैलेटल्स, रेट्रोफ्लेक्सेस, all exact classification that is there in our Siksha, they have borrowed, and that is the phonology today for them, and that is what is helping them. That kind of analysis is helping them in speech recognition software, text to speech software, everywhere. That kind of scientific analysis that we have done on language, on everything, we have done Shastra. And when you say that this is the way it has to be done, and the rigor with which we go, they get amazed at it, and they say, Vastu also, for construction, architecture, inside that we have Shastra. For everything we have Shastra, and they get really amazed. And that is why so jealous. We were talking about why they talk badly about it. They talk badly about it because they are jealous. जल रहे हैं, jealousy जलने से ही आया है। मैं जोक कर रहा हूँ, ऐसा नहीं है, जलने को और जेलसी को कोई रिलेशनशिप नहीं है, मगर जेलसी में जलना होता है ना। जल रहे हैं हमसे इसलिए कि हर एक चीज के लिए शास्त्र है हमारे पास। उनको पता नहीं है कि एक क्लासिफिकेशन ह्यूमैनिटीज हमको एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है, छोड़ दो इसको, बंद कर दो, ऐसा नहीं होता। मैं वाइप कर दिया नहीं। अगर यूनिवर्सिटीज में कोई स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज रखे तो हम जाके प्लेकार्ड रखकर बोलेंगे स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज को बंद करो, बंद करो, बंद करो, स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज को बंद करो। इसलिए कि ना, स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज को बंद नहीं करना, स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज को लेकर इधर रखना, साइंसेस में रखो, ये हमारा डिमांड है। इसलिए कि हमारे पास उसके लिए शास्त्र है, अलंकार शास्त्र है, नाट्य शास्त्र है। शास्त्र को वे लोग ए बोलते हैं, नॉलेज सिस्टम, नॉलेज सिस्टम बोलते हैं। लिटरेचर for them is not knowledge. Yeah, it is not a knowledge system. Literature is not a knowledge system. For the sake of argument, at least for the moment, let us say it is not knowledge system. But there is a knowledge system about literature. That is Alankara Shastra. There is a knowledge system about dance. That is Natya Shastra. There is a knowledge system about Sangeeta. That is Sangeeta Shastra. So we have knowledge systems. Our knowledge system concept is much broader. Chandas also, prosody, we have Shastra. Highly, it is actually most of our advanced mathematical concepts, Indian mathematical concepts come from Pingala's Chandas, Vaidika Chandas. We talk about zero being invented by Indians and contributing to the whole world. One of the Shastras which has contributed zero is this only. For Shat Pratyayas, as part of Prastara, he gives a mathematical formula. During derivation, he needed zero there. He says, unless you put Shunya there, we cannot proceed. That is where zero comes in Pingala's Chandas. Yeah, Manjul Bhargav is doing a lot of work on advanced mathematics in our Shastras. Okay, we can be so proud. You can proudly tell everyone that we are people of Shastras. We have our knowledge systems. But these knowledge systems are Indic. Our Indic knowledge systems. So, Indic knowledge systems are Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, these are also Indic knowledge systems. But all our other subjects also, Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, Kama Shastra, Moksha Shastra. Moksha Shastra is what? Is there a Moksha Shastra? Vedanta. We are using a different word for it, Vedanta, but that is what? Moksha Shastra only. For all the four Purusharthas, we have Shastras, Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, Kama Shastra and Moksha Shastra. And Moksha Shastra is being called as Vedanta. And for all Kalas, we actually enumerate them to be 64, right? For all the 64, there are Shastras. And so, for them, just as they are calling arts, we also call them arts, but they are also Shastras. They are also, arts are also sciences. There is a science about those arts, right? There is a, how art can have science, what happens in the mind for art to have science. Vakyapadiyam covers it. I will cover in another talk on grammar, linguistics and Vyakarana. We are going to have a talk on that day. I will talk about how Vakyapadiyam talks about science of art. How Vakyapadiyam talks about it. That's a more philosophical and more in-depth thinking. But presently, let us be satisfied with classification of subjects. The modern classification of subjects into these basic sciences, social sciences and humanities is not sufficient to talk about our knowledge systems. So, let us not be hasty in saying that Vaisheshika Darshana is physics. No. Vaisheshika Darshana is not physics. It has got some things which physics covers also. So, when we map our subjects with the Western subjects, we have to be very careful. We have to be very critical. We should not say Nyaya is this, Mimamsa is this. No, it's not like that. Mimamsa may cover some aspects of, say, hermeneutics, linguistics, and many other things. There is a part of it is ritual studies, which forms part of anthropology. So, among modern disciplines, which matches with traditional knowledge systems, we have to be very carefully mapping. We should not be hasty to say this is this, this is this. Okay? Please don't do that. But we have our own knowledge systems, and our knowledge systems are more robust. Robust का मतलब है मजबूत है, उनको तोड़ना बहुत मुश्किल है. जो चीज तोड़ना बहुत मुश्किल है ऐसा होता है, उसको रोबस्ट बोलते हैं. अपने सब्जेक्ट्स रोबस्ट है. Our Indic knowledge systems are robust knowledge systems है, rigorous knowledge systems है, निश्चित है, सुनिश्चित subjects है, सुनिश्चित और मजबूत बलवान शास्त्र है अपने. Indic knowledge systems इनको बोलते हैं. इनके बारे में दुनिया कब से देखने लगा? I was already telling you about environmental sciences, and there I was already telling you about how they realized that Christianity is the cause of environmental crisis. I was already telling you how they identified science and technology, modern science and technology, as the root cause of ecological crisis, environmental crisis. Once all over the world people started realizing that science and technology is the cause of environmental crisis, ecological crisis, then they started thinking, then what is the solution? Then they started looking at local knowledge systems. For example, let me tell you, there is a book called One Straw Revolution by one Fukuoka. Fukuoka is a Japanese name, so don't worry. One Straw Revolution. आप लोग तो स्ट्रॉ को जानते ही हैं. स्ट्रॉ को जानते बिना जी नहीं सकते. कोको कोला पीना है तो स्ट्रॉ चाहिए, कोको नट पीना है तो भी स्ट्रॉ चाहिए, है ना. कोकोनट या कोको कोला, स्ट्रॉ का ज़रूरत है। ये स्ट्रॉ हम जो यूज़ कर रहे हैं ना, ये प्लास्टिक है, आर्टिफिशियल सिंथेटिक है। देर आर नेचुरल स्ट्रॉस अवेलेबल इन द गार्डन, दे कम फ्रॉम ग्रास, okay, those are actually called as straw. We are metaphorically applying that word from the natural straw to the artificial straw, to the synthetic straw. Original straw comes from grass only, okay. So this professor Fukuoka, who wrote this book One Straw Revolution, you know, he had 3 PhDs in modern agricultural science. Modern agricultural science. He did research on pesticides, how to use them on land, and he went on conducting experiment after experiment to come up with new ideas and all that. Finally, he realized that chemicals are the cause of all the problem. Then he got so vexed with the whole thing and started saying, okay, let me experiment with this new idea, let me not use any chemicals at all. No fertilizers, no pesticides. Okay, I already discussed with you what are pesticides, fertilizers, right? So he said no chemicals at all, and he went to that extreme that he started saying, I do not even want to plow. खेती भी नहीं करता हूँ, खोदता भी नहीं हूँ, कुछ भी नहीं करता, छोड़ देता हूँ, क्या होता होने दीजिए। ऐसे बैठता हूँ, हाथ में हाथ डालकर, पैर पे पैर डालकर देखते बैठता हूँ, क्या होता है देखेंगे। And what he did is he took 1 4-acre land and he started living there. He said, I will only collect fruits. I will only pluck fruits. I will only collect the fruits which fall by themselves. I will not do any agriculture. So the agricultural scientist with 3 PhDs in agricultural science realized that no agricultural science is the best science. You understand? Don't do agriculture. फाइनल ज्ञान वही है, वैराग्य। जब भी हम जीते हैं, जीने के बाद कमा कमा के फाइनल वैराग्य में हमको क्या मिलता है? मत कमाओ। करते 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 लास्ट में ज्ञान क्या आता है? मत करो, निष्कर्मिया। इसको ये मिल गया, ये वैराग्य मिल गया। डोंट डू एग्रीकल्चर एट ऑल, दैट इज द सॉल्यूशन ही गेव. This is almost equivalent of our Jain way of living. Our Jains also follow that kind of way of living. And he came to India at his 102nd year, I think, to my town, Hyderabad, and he was giving a talk there. Because he was very old, actually, I was trying to help him also by holding his hand. And because I was able to stand very close to him, I was able to ask him, Sir, how did you get these ideas? Where did you get the inspiration from? He said, Mahatma Gandhi. Literally, that is what he said. I was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. And then there were some young boys, college boys standing there. Then he was in a very low voice of that old man. He was saying, you boys, do you know Jainism? Then they said, no. Actually, I am a Jain. What I am doing is Jainism only. And he asked some other girls standing there, do you know Buddhism? They said, no. He said, I am a Buddhist. What I am doing is Buddhism only. And these principles have been incorporated by Mahatma Gandhi as a modern philosophy. He gave a modern form to Buddhist and Jain ideas. That's what I am following today. And now he is a very big revolution. Actually, as the book says, he is a revolution in modern agriculture. You don't realize, today rich people go and buy organic products at a higher cost than normal products. There is organic rice. Normal rice 50 rupees है तो ये 100 rupees होगा, फिर भी बोलते हैं ऑर्गेनिक है, 100 rupees दे दो खा लो। सब कुछ ऑर्गेनिक रहना चाहिए, ऑर्गेनिक कॉस्मेटिक्स रहना चाहिए, ऑर्गेनिक सब। मैं बहुत फैशनेबल रहना है बाल को हैंग करना है, नो बिंदी, नथिंग, जीन्स पैंट, टी शर्ट, मगर ऑर्गेनिक कॉस्मेटिक्स रहना है। ब्यूटी पार्लर को जाते हैं, अगर बोलते हैं तो ऑर्गेनिक, चले जाएंगे। ऑर्गेनिक का मतलब क्या है? केमिकल्स का यूज नहीं होता, बोलते हैं इसमें कोई केमिकल का यूज नहीं किए हैं तो 150 रुपीस। हम बोलते थे ना हाँ केमिकल्स को मत यूज करो मत यूज करो, तो तब क्या बोले यूज करो बोले, यूज करने के बाद बोलते हैं हम यूज नहीं किए हैं, ले लो 150 रुपीस। हम जो केमिकल सिखाए आप लोगों को, अब हम जो केमिकल्स को सिखाए उसको यूज करो और केमिकल से उगाओ, हम 50 रुपीस में खरीदेंगे। हम ही बोलेंगे विदाउट केमिकल्स हम 150 रुपीस में खरीदेंगे। इसका डिमांड आ गया अभी, ऑर्गेनिक बोलते हैं ना, ये ऑर्गेनिक किधर से आ गया? विथ a realization that this is all wrong. So when environmental crisis came, science and technology failed, when people started realizing, then they started looking at Buddhism, then they started looking at Jainism. Not only Buddhism and Jainism, they started studying tribal agricultural methods. They went and observed that all tribal agricultural methods are nature friendly. They use this word, right? You know this word? Nature friendly, eco friendly. They use these words now. They now use this word eco friendly for all tribal agricultural methods. They use this method eco friendly for rural traditional agricultural methods, because the manure that agricultural people use is a natural manure. It has no chemicals. So now natural farming, all these things have become fashionable. They are now modern fashions. Natural farming is modern fashion. So where can you learn it? You have to go to a traditional agriculturist. In the afternoon in the kitchen I met one 76-year-old cook, Deenabandhu. I liked him. He was so affectionately talking to me. In the last 4 days, that is the most affectionate conversation I had. He was pampering me. He was sitting in front of me, talking. He was cuddling me affectionately. He was talking to me. Those बुजुर्ग के पास जाना, बुजुर्ग के पैर के पास बैठना. I told him, I will sit at your feet, sir. I told Deenabandhu. And I was actually doing pranam to him, salutation to him, because they are the people who have all the knowledge. He too has the same health problem that I have, but he was giving me all solutions, traditional solutions. क्या करना, कैसे वो बाहर आ जा सकते हैं. He told me how he does yoga, and he gave those exercises to me. Do these exercises, कुछ नहीं होगा बेटा, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. बुजुर्ग ऐसे बोलते हैं ना. Now, not we, the worldwide scientists are going to villages. They are trying to learn traditional agricultural methods. And you might have read in newspapers that Tulasi has been patented. You know, Tulasi, our Tulasi has been patented by some countries. We've got it back. We fought in the courts, international courts of patents, and we got our patent back. But what they did is they patented Tulasi also. There is a comparable plant to Tulasi called basil. And they already patented basil, but that basil also comes from Southeast Asian countries. And they also fought and they got the patents back. And there was neem also was patented, we got it back. And there is a lot of patent fight that is going on. How did they know about neem? How did they know about Tulasi? They are coming to our villages, doing research with our buzurg, traditional people, rural people. They are learning all the ethno-medical practices. Traditional medical practices, technically in these subjects they are called ethno-medical practices, ethno-medicine. This is called ethno-medicine.
We have a very vibrant agriculture, school of agriculture rural development.
Yes, I found in your website, I found, it is in Coimbatore or somewhere?
From Ranchi and Narendra.
Oh.
And then we are an organic network where organic farm is main focus.
Organic farming is the main focus, and there is a Vedic farming.
Our students go to the villages,
Ah,
stay with the villagers and learn from them.
learn from them.
Farmer is a teacher.
Yes, this is a good strategy. That is what I was telling you in the night also. If we do we can stop them from coming. We can tell them, no need, don't come here. We are ourselves are going. We ourselves are going to our villages. Our own students will go. Then we'll get the patent for all these things.
Learning by rural living.
Learning by rural living. Wonderful.
The villages for a few months. Learn from them.
Correct. Exactly. So what they are learning, ethno-medicine, ethno-agriculture, rural agriculture, these are called indigenous knowledge systems. Indigenous knowledge system. Indigenous में वो इंडी जो है वो इंडिया से कोई ताल्लुकात नहीं है. Indigenous applies to all the parts of the world. Even if there is a West Indian, Caribbean local practice, local knowledge system, that is called the indigenous knowledge system of West Indies. There can be an indigenous knowledge system of Amazon. There can be an indigenous knowledge system of Chile. Australian Aboriginals, they have their own indigenous knowledge systems. All over the world, there are tribals all over the world. There are rural people, local rural people, not the colonizing people. In Australia, the white people, they came from outside. There are aboriginals there. There are original people who lived in Australia before these English speaking people went there. They are called the Australian aboriginals. Okay, there they also have indigenous knowledge systems. Our Santalis here, they have indigenous knowledge systems. Our tribals, we have, India is tribal rich. I was telling you, if an American has to do anthropology, he has to all the way travel to either South America or Africa. But if we have to do research on tribals, we can stay in Kolkata itself and do research, because inside the city of Kolkata itself there are tribals, right? And in suburbans there are tribals. You just travel for 1 hour, you get tribals. Travel for 2 hours, you get tribals. Not only in Kolkata, in Ranchi, you get tribals. Jharkhand is full of tribals. Actually, it is a tribal rich state. Chhattisgarh has tribals. Madhya Pradesh is tribal rich. All over India, we have many tribals. One question to you. How did the tribals survive in India? In all the countries of the world, in Africa, tribals survived because educated people, civilized people did not go to Africa. In South America, tribals survived because the English people or Spanish people did not go there. Wherever they went, for example, they went to North America, they wiped out all the tribals. There are two methods that have happened with the Western people. Either they themselves from tribal stage changed into civilization. In Europe, yesterday we were talking about what happened in England. There were Anglican tribe, Saxon tribe, they became Anglo-Saxon tribe, but now they are civilized people. They lost their tribal life. Completely they gave up their tribal life. Either that happened or they killed all the other tribes. They wiped out all the other tribes. इधर उनको भगा देते हैं या मार देते हैं, कुछ ना कुछ करते हैं, ट्राइबल्स को रहने नहीं देते हैं. In India, what happened? Alongside the tribals, Vedic people, highly learned people, Shastragya people, they lived alongside the tribal people, but never wiped them out. They lived friendly with the tribals. There are instructions in Arthashastra, for example, where he says king has to be very friendly with Parvati people. He uses the word Parvati, Parvata, Parvata Raja, and all that. So you have to be very friendly with them. You have to interact with them closely. There has to be harmony between Parvata people and the normal people, Shishta people. He advises. And this was there right from the Vedic time. We used to be very friendly with them. If we were not friendly with them, how did they survive? And why were we friendly with them, you know? We thought their knowledge systems are equally respectable. Recently, I was having a conversation with a Varanasi scholar, one Jnanendra ji. very great scholar, very young but highly great scholar in Mimamsa, Nyaya and Vyakarana, all these. He runs a Gurukula, and he was asking me, people are telling me that you are an expert in tribal studies, you studied many tribes for 30 years, so please can you tell me what is so good about these tribal people? I was telling him that, for example, a tribal hunter, his eyes can control the wild animal. If he looks at the wild animal in a certain way, it does not move here or there. He has this. Then, generally what we expect from a Brahmin, Vedic scholar, he should say, ये तो चलता है, वह तो गिरिजन है, छोटा आदमी है, नहीं, ये शास्त्री बोल रहा था मुझे कि यह ऋषि होगा, इसमें मांत्रिक शक्ति है, इसमें भी एक मंत्र है, देखिए कितना अच्छा मंत्र है इसमें कितना अच्छा मांत्रिक विद्या है, हम लोग उसका गौरव करना चाहिए. This is what the Vedic scholar was telling. And this attitude Vedic scholars have been having from millions of years in this country. That is why they left them alone. Why they left them alone is because they had a respect for their knowledge system. They thought, just as my Vedic knowledge system is great, the tribal knowledge system is also great. It is, every knowledge system is great in itself. In modern cultural anthropology, they use the word cultural relativism. Cultural relativism means considering that all cultures are good in themselves. This was a change. Earlier, they used to have an evolutionist thinking. During evolutionist days in anthropology, they used to think that tribals are barbarian people. They are barbarian because they have been living from millions of years, and anything old is barbarian. That is their logic. The older it is, more barbarian it is. The older it is, more savage. Savage का मतलब है crude. Crude है, sophisticated नहीं है, refined नहीं है ना? That thinking is called evolutionist thinking. Evolutionism is all about this. Evolutionism means जो tribals होते हैं वे barbarian हैं. They were using a word called living prehistory. Prehistory मतलब इतिहास से पहले, हाँ, प्राग ऐतिहासिक. ये लोग जो गिरिजन लोग को, जनजाति लोगों को हम देखते हैं, जनजाति लोग प्राग ऐतिहासिक लोग हैं. प्राग ऐतिहासिक सब अज्ञानी हैं, इसलिए ये जनजाति भी अज्ञानी ही होना है. This is evolutionist, and this evolutionist thinking is continuing even today among educated people. Many educated people have developed this attitude. अगर जनजाति को देखते हैं तो हंस पड़ते हैं, बोलते हैं जनजाति है. क्या है जनजाति में? जनजाति होने में कोई बुराई है क्या? क्यों अज्ञानी है जनजाति? जनजाति के ज्ञान में भी बहुत ऊंचे दर्जे के ज्ञान होता है, बहुत अच्छा ज्ञान होता है. People are realizing now because of environmental crisis. Once they started getting global warming problem, once they started getting the disturbed seasons, once they started getting agricultural problems, once they started getting all consequences of the contemporary science and technology, they started developing their respect for tribal knowledge. But we had that respect for tribal knowledge from millennia, thousands of years. How do you know? Because they survived. If we did not have a respect for tribal knowledge, we would have wiped them out. We would have said, hey, keep quiet, don't talk. We never said. ट्राइबल लोग अपने सिटी में आते हैं, बोलते हैं कि मैं ज्योतिष बोलूँगा. We take ज्योतिष्य from them. He says, I will give you medicine. Do you have leg pain? I will give you medicine, right? A tribal sits on the footpath and says, I will remove your leg pain. We will go to him. We definitely believe in him and he definitely solves that problem also. And this has been happening from thousands of years in this country. We always had respect for what? Tell me? Indigenous knowledge systems. Indigenous knowledge systems. Not only Sri Ramachandra respected Guha, he respected Shabari, even for that matter, Hanuman, सुग्रीव वानर लोगों का जीवन शैली भी एक तरह का ट्राइबल जीवन शैली ही था. दो वाल्मीकि says his pronunciation is so perfect, he knows the grammar perfectly, he knows the Shiksha Shastra perfectly, everything, but their lifestyle was very much similar to that of tribal people. But Sri Ramchandra made friends with them. And with Rakshas also, he never said they are bad people. His attitude is bad. Ravanasur's attitude is bad. But Vibhishan is the right man. Make him your king, he said. So, that attitude of respecting every lifestyle has been ingrained into Indian culture. That has been the central motive of our culture. That is the central feature of our culture. Swamiji says, he says Hinduism is going to become universal religion. How? Does that mean everyone is going to break coconuts? Does that mean everyone is going to put bindi? Does that mean everyone is going to do arti? No. When diversity is respected all over the world, that is the triumph, success, victory of Hinduism, because the dictionary meaning of Hinduism is diversity. Hinduism means diversity. In one of the lectures about universal religion, Swamiji says, Swami Vivekananda says that when fanaticisms get defeated, my religion is the only religion which is correct, that attitude goes in the world, that is the triumph of, success of, victory of Hinduism. So, for Hinduism to be universal religion, for Hinduism to be the world religion, we need not make everyone break coconuts or do arti or put bindi or anything like that. Let them just accept that my religion is also one of the religions, one of the methods. That itself is the triumph of Hinduism, because that's what is happening inside Hinduism. Inside Hinduism, Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, every strand of Hinduism, every sectarian group has been respected and they are all surviving side by side. We have allowed diversity. So that diversity we have allowed between tribal life, rural life, urban life also. Urban life, city life, town life, we have allowed. Actually, in fact, for that matter, if you take the landscape distribution, demographic distribution in ancient India, there was one fort in a million villages. Among thousands of villages, there was one fort and one city around that fort. Very few towns. But most of the places were either villages, more than villages were tribal areas. So, we always had more of these people of indigenous knowledge systems, and city people are small in number, but we always had interaction. Even archaeologists have found that whenever you do grave digging, excavation, one of my friends who works on megalithic sites, I am also interested in his project of megalithic site research. We used to go together in my town. There is a whole megalithic site area. He used to do digging. I used to work along with him. That's a certain period of history. Lithos is stone. So Paleolithic is the Neolithic in between. In between is megalithic. Mega is big. It is called megalithic because they used big stones as the identity for the burial of their king. The burial of the king of the megalithic people had a big stone kept as an identity for identifying the burial, because they used big stones. They were called big stone people, megalithic people. So we used to study there. This Ramchandra Murthy, my friend, he found that the corpses, the skeletons that were found and the sand layers that were found, when scientifically worked out for the dating, he found that in the same dating period, in the same period of history, there were 2-3 different cultural groups that were living together, even in megalithic times. That shows that in India, different cultural groups living side by side was a practice from a very long time. Later they realized that even in Indus Valley civilization, you know Indus Valley civilization, Sindh, क्या बोलते हैं? सिंध, नागरकथा बोलते हैं, क्या बोलते हैं? सभ्यता, सिंध सभ्यता के जो खुदाई हुआ है उसमें भी ऐसे ही मिला है. अलग अलग संस्कृति के लोग एक साइड बाय साइड जी रहे थे, उसका एविडेंस मिला है बरियल्स में. तो archaeologically also this has been proved, and we know by evidence that tribals are living today safely in our country. We never troubled them, we never asked them to go away, we actually are very friendly with them. So this proves that in India, these indigenous knowledge systems have been respected from thousands of years. Indigenous knowledge systems of India, indigenous knowledge systems of Amazon are also there, but we did not know about that. Indigenous knowledge systems of Australian aboriginals also are there. We did not know about them. We did not know about African indigenous knowledge systems. Probably we should go and study African indigenous knowledge systems also. If one of you gets a visa to go to Africa and study, you can also go study African, Chinese indigenous knowledge systems, Japanese indigenous knowledge systems, all. Yes, Southeast Asian, many Southeast Asian tribal communities are there. We can go study indigenous knowledge systems in other parts of the world. So indigenous knowledge system is a general word. It is not related only to India, but they are local knowledge systems. By indigenous knowledge systems we mean local knowledge systems. देशीय, हर देश का देशीय हो सकता है ना? हर मुल्क में, हर राष्ट्र में, हर देश में उनका अपना देशीय होता है. वो देशीय ज्ञान व्यवस्था, इंडिजिनस नॉलेज सिस्टम का मतलब है देशीय ज्ञान व्यवस्था. हर देश में अपने देशीय ज्ञान व्यवस्थाएं हो सकते हैं. एंड रेस्पेक्ट फॉर these indigenous knowledge systems, देशीय ज्ञान व्यवस्थाएं, started coming to the modern man only after burning his hips. Science and technology say. Okay. There is another metaphor also we can use. We are sitting on a tree, a branch, and cutting the same tree branch. Cutting the same tree branch is also the same. We have done that. We have only one earth, and we have been destroying that earth, which means we have been cutting the branch on which we are sitting. This they are using. These metaphors that I am using, cutting the branch on which you are sitting, these metaphors are being used in environmental studies now. They are using these metaphors. They are saying that we have been doing that. We have been cutting the branch on which we have been sitting. We have been spoiling our own earth. We have been destroying our own earth where we are sitting, and we have only one earth to live. And we have been destroying it. Once they realized that they are doing this, then they wanted to look for alternatives, and the alternatives they started finding in indigenous knowledge systems, and then they started getting respect for tribal knowledge. Otherwise, their attitude towards tribal knowledge was evolutionist. They had what? Evolutionist attitude towards tribal knowledge. They considered tribal knowledge to be barbarian. They considered tribal knowledge to be savage. Savage knowledge. And that kind of attitude which Europeans had towards other cultures, looking down upon those cultures, is called as Orientalism. Orientalism. This word has been made popular by one professor called Edward Said. He wrote a book with the same title, Orientalism. And after his book, Edward Said's book, Orientalism, this word has now become popular all over the world. So now you can use this word whenever you want to talk about Europeans looking down upon non-European cultures, colonizers looking down upon the colonized cultures, Britishers looking down upon Indian culture. We can use the word Orientalism, Orientalist attitude. You can use these words, colonial attitude, Orientalist attitude. There is another word we use, Eurocentric attitude. They had Eurocentric. माँ को बुलाना है, थोड़ा भूख लग रहा है इधर, है ना? Eurocentric means, whenever we use this centric, hyphen centric, what we mean is that that person considers himself to be the most important. I am important. European is more important. Everything else is there only to serve him, only to help him. He can dominate over that, he can control it, he has every right to control, he has every right to dominate. That kind of attitude is called Eurocentric attitude. There are many words like this. There is another word called anthropocentric view. Yesterday also I think I already told you that anthropos means man, human being. But because these words are new to you, I have to repeat, and you have to repeatedly hear, you have to repeatedly note. Don't get diverted. He will feed, don't worry. इसको होने दो, ये लोग यहाँ यहीं देखते रहेंगे. If that is the reason, it will get solved. Otherwise, there should be some other problem. Yeah, okay. Oh, so all of you are here now. Divert होने को कुछ भी नहीं है अभी. तो हाँ, लिख लो. I already told you, you have written, but it doesn't hurt to repeat. So that these are new words. So to get settled in your mind, it may take time. Anthropos means human being, man. That is why the discipline, subject, anthropology is called anthropology, because it is the study of man, study of human being. Yesterday I was telling you anthropomorphic, also, anthropomorphic image, anthropomorphic image, okay. So there also I was telling you anthropos means human, anthropomorphic image of God means human-like image of God, right? So, yeah, it's a Greek word. So anthropocentric means human being considering that human being is the center of everything. All other animals, all other birds, all other creatures, all other living entities are there only to serve human being. Human being is the greatest, he is superior, the whole remaining nature has to be down the feet, at the bottom of his feet. That attitude is called anthropocentric view. Yesterday I was giving you the name of Roots of Ecological Crisis, that article written by Lynn White Jr. That's what he says. Christianity is the root cause of this anthropocentric view. Genesis of Bible is the root cause. It is the starting point of this anthropocentric view. All human beings all over the world started thinking that all other parts of nature, all other living organisms are there only to serve, only to be useful to human being. This attitude is called anthropocentric view, and this anthropocentric view continued from Christianity into science and technology also. Even in science and technology, this attitude has been there. Nature is there only to be controlled by human beings, only to be exploited by human beings. So that anthropocentric view is there. Is it there in our Shastras? In the afternoon also, during some discussion, I was telling Maharaj ji, Japsiddhananda ji, that we always use the word bhutani. We never use the word manushyaha. Bhutani. Bhutani means creatures, all living creatures. Whenever we want to talk about human being also, we call him only part of bhutani, but not only manushyaha or naraha. So whenever we want to talk about ourselves, also we always looked at ourselves as part of other living organisms. We never had an anthropocentric view. You can say confidently. Indians in our Shastras, we never had anthropocentric view, which means that we never considered human being as very special. We always considered ourselves, human beings, as part of bhutani, all other creatures only. Okay, don't commit violence against human being, no. We said don't commit violence against bhutani, any living organism. This has been our attitude. Don't commit violence against any creature, any living organism. Abhayam sarva bhutebhyah. Look at all creatures equally. So this anthropocentric view was never there in us. We never had anthropocentric view. This anthropocentric view is typically Christian, starting from Genesis, and it went into science and technology, and Europeans. Eurocentric view incorporates anthropocentric view also. That is why ecological crisis has come. These statements I am not making. Where are these statements from? All environmental science literature has all these statements. These are not new statements made by me. I am not creating any of these statements. These statements have been made, that is, statements that anthropocentric view is responsible for environmental crisis. Anthropocentric view which has come from Christianity, anthropocentric view which has come from science and technology, right from Renaissance time, right from the beginning of modernity, it has come. That is the cause of environmental crisis, ecological crisis. This anthropocentric view, is it there in indigenous knowledge systems? No. Tribals also do not have that attitude, because even tribals consider the other animals also like themselves. I have studied in many tribal languages, they have human-like words for other animals. When they want to describe other animals, they describe them almost the way they describe themselves. Names also. They name them, they pet them, they live along with them, and when they find a snake also, they feel that to be like themselves. They don't look at snake to be something different than themselves. They have no understanding also that snake is different from themselves. Snake is also like them for them. Tree is also like them for them. When, for example, in some forest areas, when I used to do my field work, they used to say, if a tree is cut, well, the tribal chief used to say it is bleeding. Somebody comes and cuts the tree, he says it is bleeding. You should not cut it. Only pluck. Because they just pluck, these people say they are barbarians, they are only hunters and gatherers. Gathering means what? Collect. They only collect. So hunter gatherer is barbarian. Hunting and gathering is just barbarian. They gather, they don't cut, they don't break the branches, they don't cut the branches. That is considered to be savage. That is considered to be barbarian. But he knows why he should not do it. He says, it will weep. They say, they use words like, जंगल माँ रो पड़ती है, माँ जंगल रो पड़ती है. अगर ये तुम ये सब करते बैठते हो तो जंगल माँ, they use words like that, but in their own language. That is why I am just translating them in their own language, Santali language or Mundarian language or Gadaba language or Kui language, Kuvi language, Savara language, any other tribal language. They use words which mean, they call the forest as mother forest, forest mother, and they say don't disturb it. Sometimes they even say she is sleeping, don't disturb. Sometimes they say she is now playing, don't play now, she will get disturbed if she is playing, they say. And they feel the forest so much. They say in this season she is taking rest. We should not do anything nowadays because she is taking rest nowadays. Who is taking rest? Jangal Ma. Ma Jangal is taking rest now. Rest lene do. Usko aise rest lene do. This attitude of feeling that to be highly personal, mother, all that, mother nature attitude, tribal people have. And जब हम मानसा बोलते हैं, ग्राम देवता बोलते हैं ना, ये सब ग्राम ही है. ग्राम को ही ग्राम देवता बोलते हैं. जंगल को जंगल माँ कैसे बोलते हैं, वैसी तरह हम गांव को गांव की माँ बोलते हैं, वे ग्राम देवता बनते हैं. Because you have this gram devata attitude in almost every village of India, jungle ma attitude in every tribal area of India, that same thing came during independence movement in the form of Bharat Ma. We extended that to the entire country, and we created the image of Bharat Mata during independence movement. So our Bharat Mata is not a new idea, it is only extension of our village idea, extension of our forest idea to the whole nation, to the whole country. And it has got this mother attitude, Bharat Mata. And this word mother nature is not only used in India. Go to the western countries, they too have this word mother nature, mother nature. Mother nature is a popular phrase almost throughout Europe, throughout English language, throughout European languages. They have this mother nature, the word mother nature. But feeling that as mother nature continued only in indigenous knowledge systems, but not in modern knowledge systems. Science and technology, it did not continue in science and technology. So now when we see that there are so many knowledge systems, physics becomes only one of the knowledge systems. Chemistry becomes only one of the knowledge systems. It is not the only knowledge system. For example, you have English medicine, allopathic medicine. Yes, it's a system. Allopathic medicine is a medical system. Definitely, there is nothing wrong in calling it a medical system. But today we have so many other medical systems. We use homeopathy, we call Reiki, we use pranic healing. What are they called, you know? What is the word they use? Alternative medicine. Do you know this word? All these other systems, acupuncture, acupressure, pranic healing, Reiki, homeopathy, all these are called, tell me, alternative medical systems. Let us continue this word alternative to everything. For example, history is there. Alternative historical method is itihasa. Alternative historical method is Purana. We have alternatives for everything. There is, for every knowledge system that is there today in practice, whatever is today in practice, in vogue, everyone is using, that is called mainstream. What is it called? Mainstream. So, allopathic medical system, English medical system that we are all using, even I use, you use, I am taking tablets. After this class, I am going to have a tablet from English medicine only, allopathic medical system only. That is mainstream medical system. Ayurveda today is being called as an alternative medical system. Alternative medical system. Ayurveda is an indigenous knowledge system. Is it not? Ayurveda is a indigenous knowledge system, but we call it Indic knowledge system also because it comes from India. It is coming from Indic subcontinent. We call it Indic knowledge system. Unani, you know Unani? It comes from Arabia. That is also an indigenous knowledge system only, but not Indic knowledge system. Okay? Ayurveda is one of the Upavedas also. So, it is a Vedic knowledge system also. This is another thing that I am reminded of. When we use the word Indic knowledge systems, we can classify these Indic knowledge systems into again Indic knowledge systems. We can classify them into Vedic knowledge systems, folk or rural knowledge systems, and tribal knowledge systems. Indic tribal knowledge systems, Indic folk knowledge systems. In the case of Vedic, we need not put Indic because Vedic by definition is Indic. Okay. So, we can say Indic folk knowledge systems, Indic tribal knowledge systems. Okay. So, tribal medicine, where does tribal medicine fall? Indic tribal knowledge system, Indian tribal knowledge system, Indian tribal medicine falls under Indic tribal knowledge system. Do you know that tribals have carpentry? They have carpentry also. They build their own houses, they build their own furniture in their own way, in a traditional style. That is their knowledge system. They have tribal sculpting. They have their terracotta figures, right? Terracotta figures they have, and they have even metal sculptures. Santhalis also have their metal sculptures. So, mud sculptures, clay sculptures, and terracotta sculptures, metal sculptures, wooden sculptures they have, and they have their own drawing styles, tribal drawing styles. Okay, they have everything in their life that we have, but in their style, in their own lifestyle. If for example, if there are fishermen, fishermen are also tribal people, and their boating styles, traditional boatings, traditional boat construction is their technology, right? It is traditional technology, it is their indigenous knowledge system, how to construct boats. How to fish also. Once actually I was taking American students, we had a program in my university called Study India program. As part of that, American students used to come and stay with us, learn about India and all that. We were taking them to a forest area where there was a river and there is a basket-like boat, you know that? In some areas, they use a basket-like boat. We were all sitting in that, and in that river, there were threads passed all over the river. Crisscross, the one thread from one edge of the river to the other, and other thread along the flow of the river. So, it makes crisscross threads, and threads were hanging from those threads. And we were asking, what is this? They said they catch fish through this method of crisscross threads and hanging threads and all that. And we were inside this boat. We were scared whether we'll break those threads because it has to touch those threads. But that fellow was able to row the boat in such a way that no thread was getting touched. Very skillfully, very beautifully he was rowing. On that day, in that expedition, my professor's wife was also sitting there. At that time he became my colleague. Earlier he was my professor only. His wife was also sitting. My professor was also sitting, who was my colleague at that time. We were all sitting. And this professor's wife comes from an uneducated background. She is not modern educated person. She used a sentence, down with all your PhD degrees. I hate your PhD degrees. Shame on your PhD degrees. This professor got shocked. Why is she saying this? My only 2 PhD degrees were there, mine and his. So I said, what did we do? What wrong did we do with our PhD degrees? Then she said, look at the skill of this boatman. It is much greater than all your PhDs. The way he is boating, the way he is rowing, and the way he is taking us without touching even a single thread. Wow, how it is going. She was getting surprised about that. Really, she was right, and I agreed. Ma'am, I agree, my PhD is completely waste in front of this boatsman's skill. And his fishing skills. And sometimes actually these boatmen go very, very long distances in that small boat only. That is why they are being caught by Pakistan, they are being caught by Sri Lanka, you know that. Our fishermen usually get caught by our neighborly countries only because they do not know how long they are going. They just keep on going into the ocean and catch beautiful fish, big fish, small fish. They get surprised, they enjoy, they sing songs. And what skill that is, what boldness that is, what courage, what adventure they are doing, right? That is all great knowledge. They are all knowledge systems. They have fishermen's knowledge systems, right? That is also tribal knowledge system.
How do you differentiate between folk knowledge system and tribal knowledge system?
We actually, some anthropologists, some folklorists use the word tribal also as part of folk only. But usually what they are doing is they are using folk in reference to rural life, village life. And if you want to understand the difference between a village and a tribe, to understand caste system also, if I have a topic, I will cover this in this next 2 days. Otherwise, no. But remember the definition of caste and tribe. A caste, when it lives alone, it becomes a tribe. A tribe, when it lives alongside the other tribes, it becomes a caste. Okay? Note down. If a caste lives alone, isolated, separated from all other castes, it becomes a tribe. If a tribe lives alongside other tribes as a group of tribes in a cooperative system, these tribes turn into castes. What happens in a village is tribes come and live together as a group. That is why village has castes. If you ask some of these tribal people, they say that once upon a time we were educated only. We came to this forest area during some wars, some historical happenings. We came here and we settled down here and we became tribes. That is true also. It has been proved to be historically valid. In many cases, people went to live separately, they became tribes. You know a community called Banjara community? They call them Banjaras, Lambadas. You know this word, Lambada, Banjara community. They mostly are found in the south rather than in the north. This Banjara community officially also is recognized as a scheduled tribe, ST. They are recognized as tribal people. But if you go and ask their family names, surnames, they match exactly with the surnames of Rajputs of Rajasthan. Rathor, Chavan, Pawar, all these Rajput surnames from Rajasthan are the surnames of these Banjaras. And if you ask them, how did you become tribals, how are you tribals, they also claim the same. Once upon a time we were warriors. Once upon a time we were fighting for Ranas of Rajasthan. During some expeditions, battle expeditions, we had to come to different areas and settle down separately. That's how we turned into tribal people. And that is true. And there are many tribes like that where we can prove that once upon a time they were civilized people only. Once upon a time they were caste people only. And they migrated to forest areas and they became tribal people. It does not apply to all tribes, but some tribes are like that. So castes can become tribes, and tribes can become castes also. There are many tribes which come into a village and start living, and probably all of us, you, me, we were all tribes once upon a time. And we came to live together along with others, and we turned into castes. Origins of all castes are in the tribes. We have those features continuing in our lifestyle. Okay, so Maharaj Ji asked us what is the difference between this and this. This has many groups living together. This has only a single group living in isolation. Tribal areas have an isolated life of a single group. Most of the times one tribe lives close to the other tribe only, but isolated from each other. There is a lot of distance. They don't live as the same residence. We use the word in anthropology, settlement. The entire location where all people live together is called a settlement. Okay? Urban area, town is a settlement. Village is a settlement. A tribal hamlet is a settlement. And we use the word settlement patterns, various settlement patterns. Forest hamlets are one kind of settlement pattern. A village is a kind of a settlement pattern. Town is another, city is another settlement patterns. So village is a kind of settlement pattern in which various groups live together and cooperate among themselves through division of labor. And they specialize, occupations are specialized there. In tribal areas, there is no specialization of occupation. Each tribal person, each member of the tribal group knows all the caste occupations. He himself can do carpentry, he himself can climb the trees, he himself can weave. Most of the tribes have their own weaving style also. They weave from either wool or thread or cotton, they weave also. They make ropes also. In tribal areas, we don't imagine that these tribal areas are always nude without anything. They throw stones and all that, nothing. They have cell phones also. They have televisions in their house. They use even LCD TVs if they want. Yeah. Sometimes they even have computers and internet also. Reality of tribal areas is that. Don't imagine they have a feather here always. And they hang feathers around their waist. No. During festivals only, festival times, they come in their so-called traditional dress. That traditional dress has this feather or horn or something like that, which actually has been preserved by them from several hundreds of years or thousands of years. Just as we do. Now you are in a pant and shirt, but if marriage has to be performed, you go in a dhoti. Dhoti is your traditional dress. So in traditional rituals, you go in a traditional dress. For them, what is traditional dress? Feather, horn, two horns, all these things. This is their traditional dress. Otherwise, if you go to forest areas today, they are in pant and shirt only. They are in shorts, sometimes they are in 3/4. The t-shirt also. They know, they have everything that you have. They come to our own shops, they buy in Big Bazaar.
Respect for living beings, even their tools also they respect.
Yes, that's a wonderful point that Maharaj ji brought. The beautiful aspect of both folk and tribal indigenous knowledge systems is everything is sacred for them. They consider everything to be sacred. For example, the tool with which they sculpt, chisel, we call chisel. Before using the chisel, they put it there, they worship, they put turmeric and vermilion, what is that? Harad and kumkum onto that, and then they worship, they pray to it, and then they use the chisel. If they want to climb a tree, they use certain kind of equipment to climb the tree. First they worship that equipment. First they worship the tool, and then only they tie it to their body. They consider every tool that they use to be sacred, and they talk to those tools. Sometimes they say, did I hurt you? They just tell. I have seen people saying to the chisel that, I'm so sorry, did I hurt you? They say, and they say, okay, I'm so sorry. They feel the life in the tool. There is sacredness around everything. Why do they get that bhar, bhar, you said, that spirit position? Because they feel that adhidaivika aspect of every adhibhautika thing. Yeah. So that adhidaivika we only use for shastra. Here we learn. Teachers told you adhibhautika, adhidaivika, adhyatmika, adhiyajna. You learn these things, but we never feel. But tribals feel it. Rural people feel it. They feel the adhidaivika. For example, manasa, for them it is not just snake. Snake is the adhibhautika form of manasa. But the adhidaivika aspect of snake, they feel. Mansa Devi. They feel that adhidaivika aspect of Mansa Devi. That is why when they look at the temple, when kumkum is put there, when the whole ritual is performed, they feel that adhidaivika, the devata, Mansa Devi, is all over there. That is why when they go there, they get that bhar. Because they are feeling it, they are experiencing it. They did not lose connection with that forest life, the life there, the spirit behind it. Right? The spirit is adhidaivika. We use the word adhidaivika just for the namesake, because you know who used these 4 words for the first time? Yaska. Okay, note down. Who used these 4 categories for the first time? Yaska. Yaska uses 4 levels of interpretation for Veda. Sayana continues the same. They use these words, but in Nirukta, if there is a Shabda, he gives systematically, this is Adhibhautika meaning, this is Adhidaivika meaning, this is the Adhyatmika meaning, and Adhiyajna meaning. It has been, into Gita it has been borrowed from the older books like Upanishads and all that, but that itself is such a beauty of our Shastras that by the time of Aska, such an ancient period itself, we have recognized that such meanings are possible. Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika, Adhiyajna and Adhyatmika meanings for the same word, some same concept are possible. This is our great achievement. In such an ancient period we recognized it. Yaska is how far in the past he is. He is almost close to the Upanishad times. Okay? So, the tribal people have adhidaivika anubhuti, adhyatmika anubhuti. These words we use, they don't use, they do not know Sanskrit, that is why they don't use, right? Can we expect them to use adhyatmika? जाकर पूछ सकते हैं क्या तुमको आधिदैविक पता है? कैसे बोल सकते हैं? जो चल रहा है उसको हम आधिदैविक बोलना चाहिए बाहर से, है ना. आधि भौतिक attitude, they have आधि भौतिक, आधि दैविक, आध्यात्मिक.
Civilization, Ayuda Puja and all that.
We are doing during Devi festival, we are doing Ayudha Puja, also sacred.
Vishwakarma India also.
Yeah, Vishwakarmas. Do you know that nowadays there are Vishwakarma Gurukulas? In Kumbakonam, they started a Gurukula for Vishwakarma people where they teach, along with Vedas, they teach sculpting, they teach Sthapatya, that is temple construction, they teach Vigraha Nirmana, how to build Vigrahas of temples.
The correspondent to the Ayuda Puja is Vishwakarma Puja.
Okay.
One day in a year, all the instruments are worshipped.
What a beautiful concept. Vishwakarma itself is the sculptor of the universe. Beautiful concept from Veda. And Vishwakarma, his culture should be established in all engineering colleges, in all architectural colleges. His culture is there? Wonderful. That's a great idea. We have to have the Vishwakarma sculpture, picture of Vishwakarma. That must be done. Every workshop should have Vishwakarma. All technology, all sculpture, all engineering, all architecture, and such a wonderful concept has been seen by our Brahmarshis, Mantradrashtas in Vedas, right? So now, did we get a basic idea of what are indigenous knowledge systems and how Indic knowledge systems are connected to that? How Vedic knowledge systems are connected to that? You are learning Vedic knowledge systems because Vedic knowledge systems are also part of Indic knowledge systems. You can say I am learning Indic knowledge systems because Indic knowledge systems are part of worldwide indigenous knowledge systems. You are learning indigenous knowledge systems also. But your friends in the city who are tribals, they too have their indigenous knowledge systems. Tribal, indigenous, Indic knowledge systems. Rural people also have rural, indigenous, Indic knowledge systems, and these knowledge systems can be compared to worldwide indigenous knowledge systems. We are part of that, and we are the alternative to the mainstream today. Probably very soon in future we are going to become the mainstream, and the mainstream is going to become the alternative. Let us strive for that day. Okay.
स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार